The Lebanese resistance launched one of its largest attacks against the north of the Israeli occupation in recent days. Haiti condemned the deportations of its citizens from the Dominican Republic. And Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro reaffirmed he will keep up the battle against the infiltrated, those who disregard on all forms of corruption with no hesitations of any kind. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The Lebanese resistance launched one of its largest attacks against the north of the Israeli occupation in recent days. At the same time, Israel attacked residential areas in Beirut for the 26th time in one day. Local media reported that the Dahi neighborhood in the south of the capital was bombed over 10 times in the last hours. Occupation forces claimed to have eliminated a key Hezbollah official. However, in his speech, the Deputy Secretary General Naim Qassem did not confirm the information. Hezbollah sounded the alarm throughout Galilee, and it is estimated that more than 85 shells were fired against Israelis. Filippo Grandi highlighted Syria's gesture of solidarity with displaced Lebanese. The United Nations experts thanked the government of President Bashar al-Assad for this great cooperation and the gesture of allowing everyone to enter Syrian territory without any kind of discrimination. The UNHCR chief highlighted the extraordinary work of the employees and volunteers of the Syrian Red Crescent and the other organizations in the country that have carried out continuous 24-hour workdays. Meanwhile, in Yemen, demonstrations and acts of solidarity with the Palestinian people took place on the one-year anniversary of the Israeli regime's genocide against the civilian population in the Gaza Strip. Large crowds demonstrated in support of the Palestinian cause, condemning the ongoing crimes committed by the Israeli occupation and emphasizing Arab and Islamic solidarity with the Palestinian people. Meanwhile, in Jordan, hundreds of members of the National Forum in Support of Resistance organized a protest a few meters away from the Israeli embassy headquarters in the capital, Amman, under their slogan, "Siege to the Zionist Embassy." In this sense, several Arab cities joined the protest, demonstrating their support for the Palestinian struggle against the criminal actions of the Israeli occupation.
October 7th is the anniversary of the Battle of Al-Aqsa Flood, a battle that proved that the Palestinian resistance and resistance fighters in Gaza can end the criminal fascist Zionist occupation that has besieged Gaza for more than 16 years.
The day of the Al-Aqsa flood, October 7th, was a memorable day and a day that will go down in history as the day when Israel was weaker than a spider's web. Israel showed a weakness in the technological power it used to brag about to the Arabs.
The United Nations warned of a food crisis. Israeli strikes destroying thousands of hectares of farmland in the south of the country. The UN Authority also warned about the risk of disease outbreaks such as acute diarrhea, hepatitis A, among others, which can be prevented by vaccination. The UN denounced that the Lebanese health system is collapsed due to the fact that only 4 hospitals are partially functioning, since doctors have been displaced by the attacks of the occupation forces. Pope Francis called shameful the international community's inability to put an end to the war in the Middle East. The Pope also said that violence breeds more violence, and the years of conflict seem to have taught the world nothing. The Supreme Pontiff questioned Israel's military campaign against children and women, labeled in international courts as genocide. In early September, Pope Francis urged the international community to do everything in its power to stop the fighting. And in Costa Rica, citizens held a vigil in solidarity with the people of Palestine 1 year after the onset of Israel's genocidal war in Gaza. The event took place outside of the Legislative Assembly, while a protocol meeting was taking place with the presence of Israeli diplomats and other politicians in favor of Zionism. During the day, participants demanded the international community to impose a ceasefire in Palestine, to stop the arms trade to Israel, and to withdraw Israeli troops from the illegally occupied Palestinian territories. Organizers of the vigil denounced the crimes committed by Israel and demanded a dignified position on the part of Costa Rica in the international arena. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English. There you will be able to find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. Haiti condemned the deportations of its citizens from the Dominican Republic, whose government announced last week that it will repatriate up to 10,000 undocumented migrants per week. At least 6 truckloads of Haitians were reported at the Migrant Reception Center in Haina, some 20 kilometers from Santo Domingo, before being transferred to the border for deportation after being detained in massive operations over the weekend in various parts of the country. The Haitian Minister of Foreign Affairs, Dominique Dupuy, called the scenes brutal on her account on the social media X and further assured that this migration policy of the Dominican government contravenes international human rights standards as well as the imperative of respect for human dignity. Let's look at some facts about Haiti. The country has been facing alarming levels of attacks by criminal groups, a growing humanitarian crisis, and an internal and external exodus for years, amid the government's inability to restore stability. As a result of the violence, more than 160,000 Haitians have been internally displaced in Port-au-Prince alone, struggling to get by in a country where many government institutions have ceased to function. Despite criticism of forced returns to Haiti and calls to stop deportations in the face of the crisis and insecurity in that country, last year 216,000 Haitians were deported from neighboring states. The President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, assured that house-to-house questionnaires will be carried out to analyze the living conditions of the elderly in the country.
A very quick summary. All the elderly and people with disabilities wait for an official of the nation who will come to your home and will conduct a very comprehensive questionnaire about your health situation. This questionnaire was prepared for months with the Secretary of Health David Kirshenovich and our team. Once we have these questionnaires, we will know the health condition of each of the elderly men or women.
The Mexican president also announced a meeting between the Mexican foreign minister and the ambassador of the United States.
The foreign minister will meet with the U.S. ambassador to address some follow-up issues that were being carried out.
And in Mexico, the executive legal advisor Ernestina Godoy announced the dates for the elections of judges, magistrates, and ministers during the presidential morning conference on Monday. Godoy pointed out that with the reforms to the laws of electoral procedures and of means of impugnation, they seek to give legality, impartiality, and transparency to the election process of more than 1,000 members of the judiciary. She also explained that the election will be held in 2 stages, one on June 1st, 2025, where federal judges and magistrates, some state judges, seats in the electoral court, members of the Court of Judicial Discipline, and ministers of the Supreme Court will be elected, and in 2027, the rest of the judges will be voted for. At the end of this month, the executive, legislative, and judicial branches must appoint their evaluation committees to define the candidates that will compete for the different positions, and as of February 2025, the list of nominees will be approved.
I want to mention the most relevant dates for this extraordinary election in the modifications that the President is sending. But the regulation of what is the election of 2025 is in the transitory articles. On October 16, the Senate would issue the general call. On the 31st, the evaluation committees will be installed. On November 4, the call will be published for the citizenship of those committees. On November 24, the registration of applicants. On December 15, the committees will verify the requirements of legibility On January 31, 2025, the committees will conduct interviews and the finalists will be selected. On February 4th, the powers will determine the conformity of finalists and will return to the committees.
In Argentina, students took over the University of Buenos Aires on Tuesday to protest against President Javier Milei's veto of the education funding law. The students of the faculties of Psychology, Philosophy, and Letters resolved to continue with their pressure measures for 48 hours and to participate in a demonstration planned for this Wednesday in front of Congress. For its part, the teachers' union rejected the 6.8% salary increase approved by the executive, considering that it is not enough to cover their needs in the face of rising inflation. University students also condemned the closure of the National Mental Health Hospital Laura Bonaparte, where 612 people would lose their jobs and thousands of patients will be left without care. We have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back. On Monday, the president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, reaffirmed he will keep up the battle against the infiltrated and those who disregard laws and all forms of corruption, with no hesitations of any kind. The head of state described those abusing of their privileges and disregarding laws as corrupt and degenerate. Maduro then assured that they are the second-grade enemy of the country's life. In addition, the president highlighted not only the permanent conspiracy against the Bolivarian nation, but also the damage caused by those taking advantage of the process, disguised as revolutionaries, but actually harming the people.
He is corrupt, a crooked person. He is someone who has taken advantage of the power given to him by the revolution or the people, to benefit himself personally, to destroy, to betray the people. That is why I launched this week with such force, because I am not abandoning this battle. You can be sure, Maria Antonietta, you can be sure that I am committed to the fight against those insiders, against corruption in all its forms, whatever it may look like, wherever it may be.
And Brazil held municipal elections in more than 5,500 municipalities. According to data published by the Superior Electoral Court, the Social Democratic Party and the Brazilian Democratic Movement were in the lead. Ignacio Lemus with more details.
A slim lead left the current neoliberal mayor, Ricardo Nunes, and the leader of the homeless movement, Guilherme Boulos, in the second round of the elections for the mayor of Sao Paulo. The first has the support of former President Jair Bolsonaro, while the second is backed by President Lula da Silva.
I am very confident in the decision of the people of Sao Paulo. I am very confident that the people of Sao Paulo will opt for change, and that change, which today was a majority at the polls, is represented in the second round by Marta and me. Today we have the largest progressive front in the history of the city of Sao Paulo, of those who have the conviction, the glint in their eye, that Sao Paulo deserves more.
The result left Pablo Markel out of the second round. Bolsonaro's second letter generated cracks in the extreme right with his candidacy to govern Brazil's largest city. During the campaign, he was hit with a chair in a television debate while attacking his opponents. Markel will have to explain to the Brazilian justice system the propagation of lies to harm the left candidate, Guilherme Boulos.
What happened in the debates was a cycle of violence, making politics a tool for entertainment that is disconnected from the proposals and the problems that we all suffer. So what we feel is missing in the debates are adults in the room, people debating how we solve the problems we have today in Sao Paulo. I feel a great regret in recognizing that social networks are placing influencers and people disconnected from the political problems as leaders.
Sao Paulo is considered a thermometer for politics in the rest of the country.
Sao Paulo is the economic center of the country, the largest city in the country. Everything revolves around Sao Paulo, so the impact of the choice of the city of Sao Paulo and the state of Sao Paulo is very great within the country. In South America and in the world, Sao Paulo is a city that is evaluated all over the world to know how Brazil is doing. Economically, I am talking about, not as a landscape, but as a beauty. Economically, the city of Sao Paulo is a reference.
The elections position the Democratic Socialist Party as the party with the largest number of mayoralties. The center-right organization, whose action oscillates between government and opposition, has greater negotiating weight and will be a contending ground for the 2026 presidential elections. Behind the 888 mayoralties won by the Democratic Socialist Party, the Brazilian Democratic Movement, party of the former de facto President Michel Temer, and Progressistas, both with similar ideological spectrum and fields of action to the Democratic Socialist Party, appear with expressive votes. Meanwhile, the Workers' Party achieved a slight improvement in the number of municipalities it will command, while the extreme right, with Bolsonaro at its head, reaffirms itself as a force with a strong support base. Next October 27th, 15 capitals will host the ballotage.
In Mali, the army thwarted a new terrorist attack. The aggression was planned against Timbuktu airport. The armed forces announced that an extremist group tried to attack the airport and previously a security post in the city of Ber. The armed forces' action seized a large number of weapons, drugs, and neutralized several of the extremists. The military junta assures that for months, terrorists with the support of the West have been trying to destabilize the process of decolonization and independence that they are carrying out together with the Malian people. And in Sweden, scientist British-Canadian Geoffrey Hinton and US John Hopfield won the Nobel Prize in Physics for pioneering work in the development of machine learning. One of the laureates held a phone conversation about their current achievements on a press briefing.
I think it will have a huge influence. It will be comparable with the Industrial Revolution, but instead of exceeding people in physical strength, it's going to exceed people in intellectual ability. We have no experience of what it's like to have things smarter than us, and it's going to be wonderful in many respects. In areas like healthcare, it's going to give us much better healthcare. In almost all industries, it's going to make them more efficient. People are going to be able to do the same amount of work with an AI assistant in much less time. It'll mean huge improvements in productivity, but we also have to worry about a number of possible bad consequences, particularly the threat of these things getting out of control.
Who never, ever fails to deliver.
On Tuesday, a grand ceremony was held for the retirement of outstanding Spanish football player Andres Iniesta after 24 years of a brilliant career. The 40-year-old player will be on a coaching course soon, as he is planning to train young generations. In early 2010s, Iniesta earned a World Cup, 2 European Championships, 4 UEFA Champions League titles, and 9 La Liga trophies. In addition, the footballer was among the nominees for the 2010 World Cup Golden Boot Award and Ballon d'Or. In all, the midfield player had reached 32 trophies as a Blaugrana during his 22 years at the Barcelona club. Today, Iniesta shared with his fans some statements to express his feelings at this retirement event.
That's why today I feel very proud of the journey, along with all the people who have accompanied me. I'm very happy I achieved the prize, the dream. Along with all the people who have accompanied me, I'm very happy I achieved the prize, the dream. The ultimate goal of becoming a professional soccer player, because I wanted it more than anything.
Hurricane Milton continues to move over the waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricane Center. Milton was centered about 165 kilometers northeast of Progreso, Mexico, and about 880 kilometers southwest of Tampa, with maximum sustained winds of 250 kilometers per hour. Hurricane and storm surge warnings have been issued for Yucatan and the west coast of Florida, with significant impacts expected due to the system, which is moving east at 19 kilometers per hour. Residents in coastal Florida are advised to prepare for life-threatening conditions, including high winds and storm surges that could lead to flooding. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website, telesurenglish.net. So join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thanks for watching.